right, so today since we're just getting started, we're gonna talk about the chatbot and bot ecosystem. And on our panel today, we have a great panel, from analytics to design to building bots, so you're gonna get the full overview from each specific part of these people that are in the ecosystem. So again, my name is Joseph Holguin. I'm the co-founder of SmartLoop. We're a bot platform and live chat platform to help you automate your customer service and marketing. And I'll go ahead and let each of the panel introduce themselves.
Hello, I'm Stefan from Mercury II. We are also a bot building platform. We are aiming to do basically a very smart conversation part of the things. We integrate our own NLP. So I think very similar in a way, also very similarities to what Alex talked about in Raza, but we are more focused to the business user, not so much to the low infrastructure developer.
Hi everyone, I'm Ilker. I'm co-founder and CEO of Bot Analytics. It's a conversational analytics platform for conversational products. And we are supporting more than 13 messaging platforms. Yeah, that's it.
Hey everyone, my name's Henry. I'm an account executive at Dashpot. And at Dashpot, we are an analytics and optimization platform for any conversational interface. So on the chat side, that includes Facebook, SMS, web and mobile, and then we also support voice experiences like on Amazon Alexa and Google Home. So not only do we provide insights like identifying your user abandonment, your unhandled use case, as well as conversion tracking, we also help you with the optimization and improving the future performance of your chatbot by providing you the necessary and training data. And so we have over 70 billion messages processed up to date, and I have over 18,000 bots and skills currently on the platform.
Hi everybody, I'm Vittorio from Bot Society. We're a design tool for chat and voice. Basically, creative people can come up with the best interaction possible, and then you can hand it over when you're done with your design to your engineering team that can use any technology down the road, Raza, Dialogflow, IBM Watson, they can pick whatever. Quick question, how many of you have ever received an email that said Vittorio from Bot Society in the room? Because I'm always sending them. I see some hands, that's amazing. Thank you guys.
Hi everyone, my name is Sander. I'm co-founder of Flow AI. Flow AI is another conversational AI platform. We really focus on making it really easy to quickly iterate, quickly get something live, and then collaborate with your team on designing conversational AI solutions, putting them live on different channels, training the AI, and doing content management within the platform. We're also focusing on letting you broadcast messages, so making campaigns and doing customer service.
Okay, great. So as you can see, we have just a wide range from building bots, design bots, analytics. So based on your experience, I think a lot of us have been in this industry for about 3 years now. Where do you see the ecosystem going, and what use cases do you see chatbots winning in? Who wants to start? Well, yeah, let's talk to the analytics guys first.
Yeah, I can start with. Especially if compared to the last year, I'm seeing a lot of enterprise cases. For the last 3 years, chatbots are failed a lot, but what I see on the enterprises, especially with the on-prem solutions, is getting hotter, and we're mostly giving our analytics to software as a service, to a lot of Messenger, Google Home, Amazon Alexa bots, and on the enterprise side, we're giving us on-prem, and what we see, especially on the banks, telcos, and the insurance side, there are really good deals. And with the help of Rasa and other tools, they're building really nice bot experiences. And the thing is, this failed the last 2 years, and people get a lot of experiences on that. And right now, they can put their budgets according to that, and they can put their team efforts according to that, and they build their bots in that presence, I think.
Henry?
So, yeah, in the past few years, NLP has definitely improved. We're starting to see more bot builders starting to really invest in more robust bot experiences, utilizing NLP, utilizing intents, and steering a little bit away from the rule-based decision tree models. Now that being said, with the use of NLU or NLP comes the importance of optimization. In order for you to have a successful NLP engine, you need to be constantly feeding it, training data, improving your intents, and improving those intent models over time. So we've seen a lot of increase in popularity of using an analytics layer to help supplement that and provide that training data. And that being said, we've also seen a big explosion in customer service and support use cases across the enterprise, especially on the chat side. And more on the voice side, we're starting to see more traction in brand engagement as well as e-commerce.
Yeah, I think the experience match for us, so we're a design tool, so we see the projects that are gonna get out in like 6 months versus like already in production, so it's kind of like the other way compared to analytics. We see a lot of use cases that are more relative to lead generation. When I say we see, it's because I ask. It's not like we can tell from like the database or stuff like that. But that's the main thing. And then in terms of new designs, there's a lot of interest in multimodal experiences around voice. Again, on your website and or your mobile application. So not a lot of new projects on existing platforms like Slack and Messenger, but more on your own experience, especially about customer support and lead gen.
Yeah, I think one of the other things that is interesting is the further professionalization of the space. Like Alexander also mentioned, I think what you really need to have as a company is really a team that is dedicated to the conversational AI development. If you compare it to the like the evolution of websites, in the 90s, you would have a webmaster who would build a web page. And I think with bots, it's been the same. Like you have one guy who just is a bit of a hobbying around making a bot, and now you're really seeing these successful use cases that have teams, copywriters, developers, designers, you name it, who are really collaborating together with each other to build this bot. And I also see that my own background is in NLP, so I find NLP very, of course, for chatbots, it's a must to have good NLP. But I also see that you can mix it up with other conversational UI elements like buttons or multimedia. And I'm seeing a lot of more smart solutions in that space that are combining multimedia in smart ways.
Yeah, I think what we see from our customers or customer requests is that things have changed in a way that in the beginning it was just important to have a bot or to have something on Alexa or Google Home. And now basically every conversation we have is around KPIs. It's about KPIs that are better than the way of doing it currently. And then basically can run the whole gamut of KPIs that you do have in digital marketing, and you can go from customer acquisition costs, you can go to click-through rates, to completion of forms, to all the way to maybe if you're going to the customer service side to time to close a ticket or cost to close a ticket. But I think that is the major point, that in the beginning it was just important to have some kind of bot and be part of that hype in a way. And today every conversation is around which KPI you want to improve and what time and what are the expectations and the ROI. So I think in that case the industry is changing, that we are much more under the typical business KPI decisions now.
Definitely. So I think what we're coming back to is we're seeing that we're really focusing, or the industry or the ecosystem is focusing a lot more on sales, marketing, customer service. So do you guys have any examples, some real life examples where some of these bots are driving business results for some of your users or clients?
I can give an example. We're working with some banks, and one of the banks, they're supporting 2 chatbots. One is in their website, and the other one is in their mobile phone. So on the mobile phone side, you can send any kind of money to your friends just in a voice side. And on the website, there mostly is a customer support. They're shifting like 5% of their load on the customer support on the website to the chatbot. It's mostly the FAQ chatbot, but you can ask the interest rate on those kind of questions to a chatbot, and it answers. And I think this is a perfect case what I see till today on the bank side. And it took chatbot perfect well, and one is in customer support, one is in the interaction side, sending money, those kind of interactions, yeah.
Yeah, I can add on to that. So some of the verticals that we've seen utilizing the customer support bot are in banking, finance, insurance, retail, as well as software. So anywhere where there's a high level of communication with the end customer. And where the business typically starts is by automating those simpler use cases. Ilker mentioned the FAQ-related use cases. I like to call them like level 1 use cases, or typically use cases that can be resolved within 5 to 6 turns of the conversation. So starting by automating those simpler responses and then being able to drive down that live agent cost, reduce the amount of live agent sessions. And then one of the more unexpected benefits that we received was the actual increase in customer satisfaction score by utilizing the chatbot. And this could be due to a number of reasons. It could be perhaps the 24/7 support of the chatbot, or it could be because the agents now get more time to spend on the more complex and harder questions, or maybe it's just because people are more comfortable telling the bot their embarrassing questions.
Yeah, I think from our point of view, we have seen success in small design teams tackling a very thoughtful use case. So basically, the most success that we've seen is when before deciding, okay, we're going to do this use case or this other use case, you spend some time in figuring out, is that the best thing to start from? And even if it's not like the giant bot that will do everything, it will start from a very compelling use case. So an example, like a classic example, maybe taking the existing conversations in the company and figuring out the most burning questions, also in time-sensitive manner. And just by addressing that, you usually drive way less requests, or you decrease the workload on your side, and at the same time, NPS score, as you were mentioning, goes up, which is a great combination. And so we see this across the board on different verticals. Healthcare is one of them, financial services, as somebody already mentioned, but also transportation. So those are 3 areas where the product and services are complex enough that you need to interact with your customers in a meaningful way. And so that's one of the things. And then I think the other side that we see is a more longer-term projects where the development and design is going to take more time, and it's more deep questions on, like, can we completely replace a drug, for example, with a conversation? And that's going to take more time to see if it pays off, but the proxy metrics that they get even now are very interesting.
Yeah, so I guess we're seeing very similar results across the board, but mainly I think in the customer service space. So one of our clients is Samsung in Europe. They've been doing most of their customer service through Facebook Messenger now, and with Flow AI they've tried to automate part of that. And yeah, as you also mentioned, they're really focusing on these KPIs. Like they're not necessarily focused on getting cost reduction, but they want to have the best experience for their users at any time that they want to communicate. But they actually saw that they could reduce their customer service FTEs by 25%, but they were still getting 20% more messages that they could handle. And also similar to what's been said here is that actually the customer satisfaction went up. So they're very pleased with this result, and they're actually expanding because like they started with a few processes and now they're trying to automate more processes. So to give you an idea, one of the processes that they also are going to automate in this chatbot is, for instance, repairs. So if you have a broken phone, from the moment that you report like that it's broken to the moment that you actually pick it up or get it sent back by the repair service, it's all automated through this chatbot. So that's what they're really focusing on automating more and more of these processes.
Without rephrasing all the answers you had before, I think I would just want to add one thing, that just using a bot for certain use cases gives you the opportunity to reach audiences that you wouldn't reach otherwise. I think that is one thing we learned with two clients of ours, and one of the use cases I will present later on, so I won't take it too deep now. But in the other case, we have a thing that having conversations with your audience as a brand happens in a lot of channels, but for some channels, the bot would be just the one where you would reach younger audiences best. So then whatever you do with your audience, that is the place where you can do certain things in a way that engages them, right? So I think that is also one thing that we learned.
Okay, so we've talked about where the ecosystem is now. Let's talk about where it's going. So I think Stefan mentioned maybe in his keynote 3 years ago, we kind of all thought, well, bots are going to take over apps. There's not going to be apps. We're just going to have all these bots. That's maybe not the case now that we're seeing these business use cases come out. So where do you guys see bots going, and how do you see this kind of changing inside of a business when it comes from getting it approved, getting it developed, and getting it deployed inside of a business?
I think that is probably the most greatest change, except for NLP, over the past 3 years. I think we started out as a kind of a playing ground for all the innovation departments and the large companies, and you could basically just do a bot and everyone was happy. And now as a category, I think then this holds for the building platforms, for the analytics and all the tools involved, is that you now have to answer all these typical questions that IT buying departments would bother you with, and then you would have to, basically you are maturing. You're as a category, we're more, becoming the same, like content management systems, ERP systems, or all these. So I think it's a good sign in terms of proof that there is enough business impact to it, but at the same time we have to deal with stuff we didn't have to deal with 3 years ago.
Yeah, I think we will see their cases in our lives more rigid way. Like last year, there were 20,000 skills in Amazon Alexa. Right now, 60,000. And in a real case, if you look at like in BMW 1 Series or Mercedes A Series, you can talk to a voice assistant and you can say, hey, hit my seat up and navigate me to there, or call my mom. And it's a real life example. So I think in 2 to 3 years, we will see these kind of cases a lot.
Yeah, I think the use cases that are really going to stick around in these next coming years are going to be the use cases that have a measurable ROI. So in customer service, you can measure escalation, containment, understand what is the level of conversations that you're able to automate and tie some type of savings or value to that bot or that use case. For sales, for marketing, you can look at the number of leads or number of sales that you've created and get a type of measurable ROI off of that. And that's typically, with the measurable ROI, that's when the team and that product can actually get the funding to push it into a business unit. And those are the use cases that I see really staying with us in the next couple of years.
Yeah, so I think what we're actually seeing is companies switching from thinking about a chatbot as one channel to think about their company agent as an abstract idea that then can be delivered through a chat on the website, on voice, on like the Google Assistant or Alexa or the mobile app, etc. And so you basically end up with a virtual brand agent that has his own personality and his own, I would say, principles, and then the organization declines that in different use cases, in different platforms, and we're already seeing some of the most innovative companies having this issue where like they want to tackle a lot of different use cases, but they need kind of like a centralized idea of how the brand is going to be a persona on some level. And that's very exciting from our point of view, given that the devices and the ways that you can, talk with folks are actually multiplying, and the rate at which people use these new interfaces is going up. So like, especially for voice-only devices or like Alexa, the Google Assistant, like there was an Adobe survey where like 70% of the people who have one use them daily or more. And then at the same time, we've seen customer expectations in that going up. So like if I've been speaking with a company yesterday via email, and then I go on the website, I expect to have the same consistent persona and experience in the instant chat. So we're going to see this trend where like we go from thinking about a single chatbot like a single activity to a more overarching kind of like brand persona. That's what we see.
Yeah, so to add a little to the previous comments, I think the two main factors that are going to drive the chatbot adoption are, I think, like business process automation. I think that's one of the things, especially in customer service. Just what kind of processes can we automate using, for instance, chatbots. And the other one is just like conversion. If you look at marketing, of course, if you compare chatbots to email campaigns or even text messages as they were sent out earlier, you see that the conversion is way higher. So that's going to drive, I think, a lot of adoption in that area. And I think one of the big unknowns, and that's something I also don't really have an idea about, maybe you guys have, is what voice is going to bring, like what is going to happen in the voice space. Because to be fair, I don't really see a lot of very interesting use cases in the voice space yet, and I'm very, very curious what's going to happen there.
Okay, great. So now you've got a real good overview of where we were, where we're at now, and where we're going. So we're gonna go ahead and open it up to some questions, and definitely feel free. These guys have a lot of ranging experience from, again, design to analytics to actually building it. So I'm looking forward to your questions.
Preguntas, but primero, let's clap, not just a normal clap, but a clap times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then like a half for Stefan. Bring it together for that. That was good. That was good. Here we go. Sorry, Stefan, only half for you. Any questions? Okay. She's got her laptop and everything. This is serious.
We've heard some of the good stories. I'm curious if anyone can talk about unintended consequences that you guys have observed, seen in your experience dealing with bots or voice interfaces.
So if I understood the question is about unintended consequences.
Bad bots.
Yep, okay.
Bad bots.
So I can share something. So I think for example, on the voice side, but also on the chat, one of the things that we see is that the way that you design the conversation in terms of personality is gonna have a lot of consequences for the user experience. And so if you don't control the persona properly, two things may happen. So the first one is that you set the wrong expectations. And I can make an example if you're curious about that. And then the second one is that you're conveying a brand, especially about brand values, which may be off compared to the rest of the experience. For example, if you're building a personality that is too, I would say friendly, too helpful, people will start to ask more personal questions. And that may be fun, but it may not be what you want. And so when you start off, you're always like, oh, we need to be extremely friendly, but it may not exactly be what you want. And most of the times you don't. In the same way that, say, when you go and buy a plane ticket at the counter, you don't want the person on the other side to go like, hey dude, how's it going? Like, that would be kind of weird, even though it's friendly, right? It's kind of like the same thing. So the personality is the first, has this aspect. And the second one is expectations. So if I have a persona that makes me feel like it can answer more questions or about topics that I don't foresee, then you may have problems. So for example, one of the experiments that we have run back in the days was to give like a strong accent to one of our bots. And that was very fun, and people had a lot of fun with that. But then they start, and it was a bot that would tell you prices of goods. Like you could ask, like, how much is a smartphone, like a second-hand smartphone. And but the problem with the accent is that people were assuming he was local from a certain area. So they would start also to ask recommendation for restaurants. And we were like, why? This is a price bot. And just based on that thing. So that's our experience.
I just wanted to add a note to that expectation piece. I totally agree. So no bot is ever perfect on launch. When you launch the bot, you'll quickly realize that your customers are way more creative than you and your developers and will dream of a million different ways to break your bot. So that being said, yeah, it's really important at the early stages to manage your customer expectations, your user expectations. And some of the best practices that we've seen are to make it clear to the user what the bot can handle at the early stage of the conversation. That can either come in the form of a menu or just to really just identify that like this bot is meant for this certain use case. And also making it clear to the user that they are talking to a bot and not a human.
And I want to add something. And in our cases, there are a lot of unintended things going on, and there will be. So in that sense, you need to iterate your conversation flow. So you release your experience on virtual assistant, and you scale up, and you need to get the data and the analytics part, and you need to iterate your conversation flow. It's kind of cycle. You have to do this, and you will face a lot of unintended things, and then you will reduce them.
Here you go.
Thank you. Thanks for your comments this morning. My name is Journal Sampana from Microsoft, and I was curious. I love the reference to KPIs, especially at the enterprise level. Could you share some of your experiences integrating chatbots with process tools like Salesforce, SAP, or even Dynamics in order to get some of these KPIs?
KPIs in terms of
They're
how
thinking.
they
That's a good
perform,
question right there.
I mean, do you have a?
That's a very good question because I think this is some of the things that always comes along if you do a chatbot process that you need to integrate, because if you don't integrate your chatbot with any system, it usually doesn't have a lot of value. So I think this is a process that you need to manage very well, and you need to make sure that within the organization it's very clear that there is like a product owner and that you have all the people lined up correctly that can do this. In my experience, it's a lot of communication between, for instance, a company like Salesforce or another company, the business itself, and then the provider of the solution, and then it's figuring out how actually this tool or this system fits in the journey of how the customer uses the chatbot, and then making sure everything connects well. So yeah, it's an interesting experience trying to make this work, but usually you can figure it out. But of course, it's also a very broad question because there's lots of different tools, lots of different functionality, and how is it being used within the company, and how do you want to automate parts of that? So those are things that need to be well understood before you can even start to automate those processes.
I would add maybe that with our integration with Salesforce, we learned that we can make steps into the direction what we heard earlier from Alex in terms of personalization, because a lot of data about the actual user, the individual user, lies in those systems. So we can, if we manage to sync them in a smart way, then it can really, in the beginning, without the user telling us a lot of information about themselves, we can really personalize experience, at least on a factual level, that we know things about the user that the company as a whole knows, right? So I think the kind of stuff you would expect from a good call center or service center would be easier to do with bots, because I mean you can really integrate them on the data level. So I think that would be something. I mean, in terms of KPIs, it would drive time to resolve a ticket because you have all these data available. But other than that, I mean, I think because it's just a data availability, you could drive a lot of different other KPIs. I mean, also in terms of marketing, marketing efficiency. You could do a lot of things if you can infer data from a CRM solution into a conversation flow. Then that would give you a lot of efficiency towards the marketing end as well.
He sees there's one back there. Okay, I'm going. All right, we have 3. 1, 2, 3. Whoever raises their hand the highest gets it. There you go.
Hi, I'm Sharon from Citi. One of you mentioned earlier a chatbot that was deployed on the website and on the mobile app, and I was curious because it sounded like these are 2 distinct bots. I understand that the intents were different in each of them.
Yes.
So are they distinct and were they trained separately, or is this the same kind of parent bot?
Yeah, it's separate bots and their teams are separate.
So why is that?
But they're connected in the BI side. All their BI teams are same, but the bot experiences are different because the one project started like 2 years ago and another one is started like a year ago. So their teams are different. It's coincidence, like most of the case we don't see this kind of thing, but their teams are different.
So,
Actually, most of the time, the banks, if you talk about the bank side, all the chatbot owners are the same. So they lead all the chatbots. It can be like web bot or it can be either in the mobile bot. I think on that case it's different because one is started like in SaaS, but the other one is in the enterprise on-prem side. So we set up an on-prem, and then I don't know, maybe later they all come in on-prem, but they are separate right now.
So, yeah, if I can add something about this, that's one of the ways that you can set it up. I think another way is also to, so from a design point of view, so it's a different point of view, it's you design it once in an abstract way, either for mobile or web, and then depending on what you want to do inside the mobile app, where you have maybe more freedom or you have a different context of the interaction because it's inside an experience in the mobile app versus just somebody arriving on your website for the first time, then you may want to adjust the experience. And so that's how you arrive to the point where you have 2 different experiences. So for example, like a logged in experience or a logged out experience, right? And so what we see is like, okay, I make a general design and then I create some variation for the platform that may translate into a different intent structure or it may not. If you have the same intent structure, then you can train it once to answer your question. So you have one NLP engine that feeds both variations, or you can have a different intent structure. But you will discover that while defining the user experience, it's kind of hard to do it the other way around. So like starting to say, okay, it's going to be the same or different before you actually figure out the overall map and blueprint of the interaction, right? So like you design it and then you will figure it out, okay, we have 2 different actual intent structure because in the logged in experience we have 3 more intents or whatever, or maybe you have the same. I hope like I answered.
All right, so in the sake of time, instead of just moving on, and I feel bad for the 2 ladies that didn't raise their hand high enough, we are going to do this question and the other question, but the challenge to you is to answer the question in the form of a tweet. So you have 280 characters to do so. So this will be a little lightning round, and I'd rather get lightning short answers than no answers at all. Here we go. First tweet question.
Beyond goals and funnels, have you guys seen any novel approaches to getting user feedback on an intent by intent basis?
Open up the Twitter app in your brain.
Can you repeat that last part of the question?
Yeah, on an intent by intent basis. So like when they're going through a specific conversation trying to address a specific task, we're trying to evaluate what they thought of that. I don't know if you can answer that in a tweet, but give it a shot.
Anything can be answered in a tweet, by the way. I just want to get that out there.
Yes, that would be a very short. We have multi-step conversations in our platform, and come back to the table, I'll give you a demo.
Excellent tweet. Good. Hashtag, wait, sorry, you forgot hashtag Chatbot conference, but that's okay.
Hi, my name is Katarina. I'm from Alba. We're in the energy industry helping utilities better communicate with their customers as well as improve the customer experience for the utility customer. So obviously we're trying to save them some money on that side, as well as a lot of them raised interest and a pain point in the field of participation in their existing programs. So this is a question of the user actually taking action. For instance, it doesn't have to be, reduce your own service or challenging for the end user, just sort of setting up smart home devices or things like that, but also just taking out action in terms of peak load reduction to, for example, unplug your pool pump from 2 to 7 a.m. Right, so have you experience in that field, not only using it to serve the customer better, but also make the customer to take action?
Granted, that's hard to answer, and I'm going to take my previous question back, but you can try. There's a few things you can unpack in there.
Yeah.
I've been talking too much.
Yeah, I mean, I guess to kick it off, you're looking to drive higher engagement with the user, right? And I guess one quick comment that I can make here is to use a platform that does support some type of push notification. Like Facebook Messenger is a great example if that's available where you are, or if your customers are using that platform. But with Facebook, you at least have the ability to send push notifications if the user, based on events, right? Like if the user is leaving their lights on, you tend to send those users like a notification that, hey, you should snap your lights off. Maybe give them a fun fact about what may impact the environment based on their actions, and give them a call to action to actually perform that specific action.
Yeah, so we have some experience with that. We had an insurance company who ran a campaign also through Facebook Messenger, and it was actually a digital detox campaign, as they called it, to switch off your mobile device more often and to in order to get more sleep. And they actually did this. You could sign up for the challenge, and then they measured actually if people would increase or improve their behavior, and actually they found that there was a massive improvement in behavior, and that the response rates were way higher than email. So I think you can do it in a very successful way. Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, 7.5 times the applause to these people.